You don't deserve a family if you can't support mine, my wife said, right before throwing my stuff out the door. I didn't argue. I just walked away quietly and let the bills do the talking. She called me heartless, but a month later, her brother's meltdown made everyone finally see who'd really been paying for everything. Hey, Reddit? My wife thought kicking me out to protect her lazy brother would teach me a lesson. So I packed my bag, left without a word, and let reality be the teacher instead. But before it all fell apart, let me start from the beginning. My name's Ryan Hale, 33. I work in construction management. Long hours, heavy boots, and quiet rides home. I've been married to Maya for 5 years. Her brother Dylan, 27, moved in for a couple of weeks after losing another job. That was 6 months ago. The day everything started, I got home late. My son already asleep, clothes still dusty from the site. My truck was parked out front like always, but I noticed a long, deep scratch running down the side of the door, like someone dragged a key across it. My stomach sank. I ran my hand over it. Fresh. Inside, the living room looked like a trash can had exploded. Empty cans, pizza boxes, controller wires everywhere. Dylan was half lying, half sinking into the couch, headset on, yelling at strangers online. Didn't even look up. I walked straight to the kitchen. The drawer where I kept a small emergency cash envelope, about $200, felt lighter. I counted. 80 gone. I just stared at the bills for a second, trying to keep calm. Hey, I called from the kitchen doorway. You take my truck today? Dylan barely glanced back. Needed to grab food. You were gone. I nodded slowly. You hit something? There's a scratch down the side. He paused the game, turned with that lazy smirk. That was already there, man. Chill out. Before I could respond, Maya walked in from the hallway, hair wrapped in a towel, phone in hand. Ryan, stop! He's family. You're always looking for something to fight about. I turned to her. Your brother took my truck without asking, and now money's missing. That's not fighting, that's facts. She rolled her eyes. You act like you're the boss of everyone. He's trying to get back on his feet. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He's been trying for half a year. No job, no rent, no chores. I come home to a grown man glued to my couch, and I'm supposed to just fund the lifestyle? Dylan muted his game and leaned forward. Bro, you need to relax. You sound like a landlord. It's not that deep. Yeah, it is, I said. You're eating my food, driving my truck, and now my cash is disappearing. You either start contributing, or you find somewhere else. He grinned. That kind of grin people give when they know someone's going to protect them. You gonna kick out your wife's brother? For real? Maya stepped closer, her tone sharpening. You're being controlling again. It's just money, Ryan. You always think people are using you. I looked straight at her. People don't have to think too hard when the evidence is sitting right here doing nothing. That one hit. Her face tightened. Dylan muttered under his breath, Damn, dude's losing it. I snapped my keys down on the counter. I'm done asking nicely. You want to stay here? Help out. If not, leave. This isn't complicated. Maya's voice went cold. You don't talk to my brother like that in my house. I froze. Your house? The silence stretched. Dylan leaned back, smirking again, like he'd just won something. Maya grabbed her phone. You're being aggressive. I'm calling the police. I honestly thought she was bluffing. She wasn't. I stood there stunned as she gave them our address. Dylan didn't say a word and just kept that same stupid smirk. When the officers knocked, I opened the door myself. 2 of them, polite but cautious. One asked if there was a problem. Just a disagreement, I said. I'm leaving. Maya stood behind me with her arms crossed, acting calm, like she was the victim. The younger cop asked, Everything okay, ma'am? She said, He's worked up. I looked at both officers. Look, fellas, no issue here. I'm just realizing who I live with. One of them asked if I wanted to grab a few things for the night. I nodded. Went to the bedroom, threw a few clothes and my laptop into a duffel. I didn't rush. Didn't say a word. When I came back, I set my house keys on the counter, right next to Dylan's stack of empty soda cans. You'll need these more than I do, I said. Maya frowned, trying to look firm, but her voice cracked just a little. You're overreacting. Maybe, I said, slinging the bag over my shoulder. But I'm also done paying for people who don't respect me. Dylan laughed quietly. Yeah, sure, man. See how long you last without us. I stopped in the doorway and looked him dead in the eye. Without you? You mean the guy who doesn't even pay for toothpaste? He went silent. And that's how I walked out, calm, quiet, and completely done. The cops glanced at each other. I turned to them. No problem here, officers. I'm leaving peacefully. As I stepped outside, I looked back once. The place I'd worked so hard to build suddenly looked smaller, cluttered, loud, ungrateful. The officers took our names, logged the call. Nobody was hurt. Nobody wanted to press anything. I told them I was leaving for the night. That was the end of it. They left. I walked to my scratched-up truck, tossed my bag into the back seat, and sat there for a second before starting the engine. The house lights were still on. Through the living room window, I could see Dylan picking his controller back up and Maya pacing with her phone. I said quietly, mostly to myself, "Let's see who keeps the lights on next month." Then I drove off into the dark street. No music, no second thoughts, just silence. Nick's place wasn't fancy, but it was quiet. A small one-bedroom apartment above his auto shop smelling like oil and burnt coffee. He dragged an old mattress out from the corner, handed me a pillow and said, "That's all I got, man." "That's all I need," I told him. He nodded once and went back to his usual pace, slow, steady, no questions. That's what I liked about Nick. He didn't talk unless something needed saying. That night, we ate takeout on the hood of a car behind the shop. Paper boxes, plastic forks, the streetlight buzzing overhead. Nick looked at me, chewing slow. "You gonna let them do that?" I shook my head. "Not really letting them. I'm just giving them what they wanted." He frowned. "Which is?" "Me gone." He smirked. "Fair enough." After that night, I built a routine. I needed order. I woke up before sunrise, did a few push-ups, showered, grabbed coffee from the gas station across the street, and got to work early. I stopped scrolling my phone, stopped checking on Maya. My phone stayed on silent most of the day. Nick worked long hours, too. We rarely talked about what happened, unless he caught me thinking too hard. Then he'd just say, "Don't go back, man." Not after that. I'd nod. After the first week, I noticed how different silence felt when it wasn't loaded with tension. I slept better on that old mattress than I had in months. One Sunday morning, I sat down with my laptop and went through my bank accounts. Every bill, every subscription, every transfer. It was worse than I expected. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, streaming services, almost everything was under my name. Maya's paycheck barely covered gas and her little shopping habits. I stared at the list for a while, then started moving things around. Canceled what wasn't mine alone, changed passwords, set reminders. By the time I was done, the account looked clean, organized, mine again. That week, I called a lawyer. A friend of Nick's recommended Daniel Cho. Quiet voice, clean office, the type who doesn't waste words. We sat across from each other while he flipped through my paperwork. I explained everything, including the incident number from the night the cops came. He glanced at the short notes, then looked up. "No arrest, no charges, no case. That's just a call for service entry, not a criminal record." I nodded. "What about the house?" He pushed his glasses up. "Mortgage is in your name. That gives you control. But the lender doesn't care about your domestic situation. If you stop paying, they'll report you late and eventually foreclose." "So what can I shut off?" I asked. "Everything that isn't secured debt," he said. "Close joint cards, remove authorized users, cancel subscriptions you pay for, move your direct deposit, and put utilities under whoever's actually using them. Keep the mortgage current while we separate finances. If you want out of the house, we can list it or petition for exclusive use. Depends on how cooperative she is." "So legally," I said, "I can stop paying for everything except the mortgage?" "You can stop paying for anything that isn't in your name or isn't secured," he said. "Keep the mortgage current until we sell or you get a court order. That's the clean way." He typed a few notes, then slid a one-page checklist across the desk. "Do it quietly. No speeches. Just stop funding what isn't your responsibility." Back at Nick's, I spent evenings fixing things around his place to keep busy. Door hinges that squeaked. A leaky sink. Flickering garage lights. I repaired them one by one, more for the focus than the money. Nick watched me one night while I patched a drywall hole in the hallway. "Man, you work like you're trying to earn your oxygen." "Better than sitting around feeling sorry for myself," I said. He grinned. "You ever think of doing this for real? Small jobs, rentals, handyman stuff?" I thought about it. I already had the tools and experience. Maybe it beat fighting with people who think groceries grow on trees. The next day, I made a simple post online offering repair services. Within a week, I got 3 calls: leaky faucet, fence repair, busted cabinet hinge. Nothing big, but it kept my mind sharp. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed every few days with notifications I didn't open. I recognized Maya's post when mutual friends sent screenshots, pictures of her and Dylan sitting on the couch, some cheesy caption like "peace at home" or "positive energy only." I scrolled past them without stopping. Nick saw one once while I was showing him a text from a client. Nick laughed. "She's posting like it's a movie and she's the hero." I shrugged. "She can have the role." I'm rewriting mine. By the second week, the apartment started feeling more like home than the house I paid for. I cooked simple meals, kept my stuff organized, and stopped worrying about what they were doing. Every night before bed, I went through my to-do list: workouts, client calls, savings goals. One evening, after finishing a job, I was sitting outside with grease still on my hands. Nick came out with 2 sodas, handed me one, and sat down beside the car. "You ever think about getting back at them?" he asked casually. I cracked open the can. "No revenge," I said. "Just balance." He raised an eyebrow. "Balance?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm just removing myself from the system that feeds them. They'll mistake that for revenge, but that's not my problem." He nodded slowly. "That's probably the most peaceful way to mess somebody up." I smiled, staring out at the dark street. "Exactly." We sat there for a while, quiet except for the sound of cars passing in the distance. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry. I was just focused. Everything that came next was going to be simple math: cut off the waste, rebuild what's mine, and let time do the rest. I didn't need to yell, post, or explain. Silence was doing all the talking I needed. 2 weeks after I left, my first full paycheck hit the new account. I watched the deposit come in, double-checked everything, and felt a calm I hadn't felt in years. No shared access. No automatic transfers feeding someone else's comfort, just mine. That night, I sat at Nick's kitchen table with my laptop and went through every bill tied to the old house. One by one, I switched or canceled them. The grocery card gone, streaming accounts canceled, auto payments turned off. Even the utilities were changed to require manual payment. I didn't touch anything illegal or messy, just stopped funding what wasn't my responsibility anymore. When I was done, I leaned back and looked at the list. Every single expense that kept that house running had my name on it. For years, I'd called it teamwork. Now it looked more like charity. A week later, my phone buzzed while I was patching drywall at a rental property. It was a message from Maya. Why did the card decline at the store? I stared at it for a few seconds and put the phone back in my pocket. Didn't reply. By the end of that same week, the messages doubled. "Internet's not working." They said the water bill went unpaid. "Are you really going to do this to me?" I didn't answer any of them. She'd called the cops on me in my own house, told me to leave, and now she wanted customer service. Nick noticed I was quieter that day while we worked on a garage door. "Everything good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just waiting for the lights to go out." He chuckled. "That'll be a fun show." It didn't take long. Word got back through a neighbor I still talked to. The house looked dark most nights now. Maya and Dylan were arguing a lot. Apparently, Dylan's big complaint was that a real man wouldn't abandon family. That part made me laugh. The guy living off another man's paycheck talking about what real men do. While they spiraled, I kept working. My side job started picking up fast. People appreciated someone who showed up on time, did clean work, and didn't overcharge. Word of mouth did the rest. I fixed fences, replaced outlets, built decks. Half the time, clients tried to tip me extra, and I refused. I wasn't chasing money anymore. I was chasing peace. I didn't post anything online. No pictures, no updates, no look-at-me moments. The fewer people who knew what I was doing, the easier it was to move in silence. Once, a mutual friend texted me a screenshot of Maya's new post, another staged selfie with Dylan on the couch, captioned, "Good vibes only." I scrolled past it. You could tell the smile was forced. The walls behind them were bare, the same ones I'd painted last year. I almost felt bad for the paint. At the same time, my phone started lighting up with new client messages. Someone had recommended me for a maintenance contract with a local property manager. Small jobs, steady pay. It was the kind of gig that let me stay busy without thinking about the mess I'd left behind. One night, after a long day, I grabbed a coffee and took a slow drive through my old neighborhood. Not to snoop, just curiosity. I wanted to see how that piece at home was holding up. The street was quiet, most porch lights off. When I pulled up near my old driveway, I parked far enough not to be noticed. The blinds were open just enough to see inside. The TV screen was black. The room was dark. Dylan was pacing around, waving his arms, while Maya sat at the table. I couldn't hear much, but when the front door flew open, I caught enough. "Don't start with me about the bills," she shouted from inside. "You're the one who made him leave," Dylan yelled back. "Now we're screwed because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." I watched him stomp onto the porch, slam the door, and sit on the step. His phone screen lit up his face, probably trying to get a signal that wasn't there. I sipped my coffee and leaned back in the seat. This wasn't joy or revenge. It was confirmation, proof that they were finally seeing how much invisible work I'd been doing just to keep that roof from collapsing. I sat there for maybe another minute, just long enough to see Maya come to the door, say something, then slam it again. Dylan yelled something after her, but I didn't care what. As I pulled away, I caught myself smiling a little. Not a proud smile, more like the one you give when a math problem finally adds up. "Reality's doing my talking for me," I said out loud. The next morning, I woke up early again, same as always. Made coffee, checked my schedule, and got back to work. No texts, no calls, no stress. The silence didn't bother me anymore. It just reminded me that for the first time in years, everything that was happening or falling apart wasn't my mess to fix. About 3 weeks after cutting everything off, the messages started again. At first they were angry, then softer, then desperate. "You can't just leave us like this. I know I said things, but you're being cold. Can we please talk? I can't keep paying everything." Every time my phone buzzed, I'd skim the first line and put it face down. When I finally did answer, I kept it short. "You said you didn't need me." That one hit her harder than anything else. She stopped texting for 2 days. Then they started again, longer this time, more scattered. "He's trying to get a job, I swear. We're doing our best. Please, just help with the mortgage until he finds something. No apology. Just excuses." Meanwhile, Dylan was spiraling. I didn't have to see it to know. People talk. A neighbor I'd stayed friendly with, Mr. Harris, texted me one afternoon. "Your wife's brother's losing it. Yelling outside again. Broke something last night. I thanked him and told him not to get involved." Later that week, another message came through. "He's been pawning stuff. Saw him at the shop downtown."
Pretty sure it was her jewelry.
I read that one twice. I shouldn't have been surprised, but it still landed weird. The same woman who called me controlling was now living with a thief under her own roof. Back at Nick's place, I was keeping my days packed. The side jobs were steady now. I'd wake up early, knock out a few repairs, grab a sandwich, then spend the afternoon doing paperwork or calls. Nights were quiet. One evening, Nick came home and tossed his jacket onto a chair that wobbled so bad it almost fell over. He cursed, and I laughed. "Man, how long's that been like that?" I asked. "Months," he said. "You're the fix-it guy. Do your thing." I grabbed a screwdriver and sat on the floor. It was a simple fix. Tighten a few screws, glue a cracked joint, let it sit overnight. He stood behind me eating chips. "You really don't stop working, huh?" "Can't afford to stop," I said, checking the alignment. "If I sit too long, I start thinking." He nodded. "They still texting every day?" "Same song, different lyrics." "You gonna answer?" I shook my head. "Not yet. Let's see how long the lesson lasts." He laughed. "That's cold, man." "Not cold," I said. "Just balanced." The next morning, I got a call from Daniel Cho, my lawyer. Calm as always. "Quick update," he said. I checked with the department. There were no charges and no case opened. Background checks won't show anything. There's nothing to remove. If you want something for your files, I can request a letter confirming no arrest and no further action. I thought about it. "Don't bother," I said. "I've got the incident number if I ever need it." That afternoon, between jobs, I scrolled through Maya's latest messages. The tone had changed again. She wasn't angry anymore, just tired. "I can't do this without you." "He's getting worse." "I think he took my necklace." "I just need help, please." I didn't reply. Instead, I took a screenshot and saved it in a folder I kept for documentation. Proof, not for court, but for memory. The chair I'd fixed the night before had dried perfectly. I tightened the last screw and sat down on it. It didn't move an inch. That simple repair made me feel more grounded than anything else that week. Sometimes rebuilding something broken is quiet work. No yelling, no lectures, just time, tools, and patience. Over the next few days, more updates rolled in from people I hadn't even asked. A friend who lived a few streets over said Dylan had been seen screaming in the driveway at midnight. Another said Maya came into her store looking worn down and distracted. Nick looked up from his phone one night. "Dude, your old house sounds like a soap opera." "Yeah," I said, closing my laptop. "Only difference is, nobody's watching this one for fun." He laughed. "You sure you don't miss the chaos?" Not for a second. By the end of the week, the messages from Maya turned bitter again. Short, sharp sentences. "You think you're proving something?" "You're just cruel. You'll regret this when I move on." I didn't respond. Didn't even roll my eyes. I just screenshotted them all and went back to work. The last message came around midnight. "I don't even know who you are anymore." I looked at it for a while, then locked my phone. She didn't realize it yet, but I hadn't changed. I was the same person I'd always been. Just finally done being taken for granted. The next morning, I packed my tools, loaded the truck, and headed to a new job across town. The sky was clear, the air cold, perfect working weather. As I pulled onto the highway, my phone buzzed again. Another message. Another plea. I ignored it, turned the volume all the way down, and kept driving. The road ahead was open, quiet, and mine. It had been almost 2 months since I walked out of that house when Maya finally convinced me to meet. She'd been texting for days. Long messages, paragraphs full of apologies mixed with guilt trips. I ignored most of them until one line caught my attention. "Please, just one conversation. I need to see you." I agreed, but only on my terms. A public place, no drama. We picked a small diner off the highway. Plain booths, quiet crowd, nothing fancy. When I walked in, she was already there, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't even touched. She looked thinner. Makeup couldn't quite hide the tired eyes. Her hair was tied up carelessly, not the confident version of her who used to lecture me about being too harsh. I sat across from her. "So," I said, "you wanted to talk?" She nodded, eyes darting around like she was afraid of being overheard. "This can't go on," she said finally. "Dylan's trying, but he can't find anything stable. We're behind on everything." I raised an eyebrow. "Trying what? Breathing?" Her face tightened. "That's not fair." "It's accurate," I said. "You picked your side. Now live with it." For a second, she didn't speak, just stared down at her cup. When she finally looked up, her voice was quieter. "I overreacted, okay? That night I was just angry. I didn't mean for it to get this bad." I leaned back. "You called the cops on your husband because I asked your brother to grow up." "That's not angry, that's stupid." She winced but kept going. "You made him feel unwelcome." "He was unwelcome." "He's a parasite. You don't invite someone to live off you and then blame the person paying the bills for being upset about it." Her lip trembled slightly, but I didn't feel sympathy. I'd spent too long trying to reason with someone who only heard what she wanted. She tried changing the subject. "You can't just cut us off. We're drowning, Ryan." "Correction," I said. "You're drowning. I learned to swim." She frowned, frustration bubbling through her calm act. "You think this makes you look strong, leaving me to deal with everything?" "No," I said. "It makes me look done." The waitress came by, dropped off a refill for her, and poured me a coffee. Neither of us spoke until she walked away. Maya stirred her cup with a spoon just to have something to do with her hands. "Is this really how it ends?" she asked softly. I looked her straight in the eye. "No, it ends with me cleaning up legally. I'm listing the house and separating everything on paper. I'll keep the mortgage current until it closes. Utilities and extras are on whoever's living there." Her head snapped up. "You can't." "Sure I can," I said. "I paid for it." Her voice rose slightly, earning a glance from another table. "That's our home, Ryan." "It was our home," I said, keeping my tone even. "Then you let your brother turn it into a crash pad and called the cops on me when I objected. Homes don't survive that kind of stupidity." She shook her head, biting her lip. "You're just doing this to hurt me." "If I wanted to hurt you," I said, "I'd come back. This is mercy." Her eyes watered, but I didn't buy it. Guilt and regret always sound like tears when people run out of excuses. The check came. The waitress slid it between us. I took it and looked at the total. "I'll get mine," I said, dropping enough cash for my coffee and setting it on the table. Maya fumbled with her purse, trying to look composed. She slid her card into the folder, and a few minutes later, the waitress came back. "Sorry," she said quietly. "It didn't go through." Maya's face froze. The waitress left politely, pretending not to notice the tension. I sat there watching her thumb through her wallet like she might magically find money. "Need a loan?" I asked flatly. She glared at me. "Don't be cruel." I stood up. "You wanted independence. Congratulations, you got it." I left the cash for my coffee and walked out. The bell over the door jingled behind me. Outside, the air felt lighter. I walked across the parking lot, pulled out my phone, and typed one last message. "Decide who your family really is." This was your free trial. I hit send and slipped the phone back into my pocket. Through the diner window, I could still see her sitting there, head down, card in hand, pretending not to notice everyone else moving on with their lives. I didn't feel proud or angry, just done. For the first time in years, I was finally walking away from someone who never thought I would. And then, the house finally cracked, exactly the way I knew it would. It started one night when the power got cut. The unpaid balance had piled up for weeks, and the company finally flipped the switch. No lights, no Wi-Fi, no hot water. Dylan lost it. He threw a plate at the wall so hard it shattered against the corner, then started shouting about how the system was against him. Maya told him to calm down, but he only got louder. "This is your fault," he yelled. "You should have begged him to come back." She told him to pack his things and leave. He laughed in her face. "You're nothing without him, and I'm the only one who stayed." When she tried to push him toward the door, he shoved her back, knocked a lamp over, and stormed outside. 10 minutes later, he came back in through the kitchen, still yelling, still blaming everyone but himself. He kicked a chair, threw an empty bottle across the room, and punched a hole in the drywall. That's when the neighbors had enough. Someone called the cops. Officers showed up again. This time, they didn't need much explanation. They could hear Dylan yelling from the street. One of the officers walked in, told him to calm down, but when he started shouting about being framed, they cuffed him right there. By then, Maya was sitting on the steps crying and shaking. When the door slammed behind him and the patrol car pulled away, the whole house went silent. Reality hit her, exactly the way it was supposed to. The next morning, I met with Daniel. He already had the separation of finances packet ready, along with the listing agreement for the house. "This starts the process," he said. "Photos, showings, offer, escrow. Figure 30 to 60 days once we're under contract." I signed everything that needed signing. Clean, simple, no announcements. "This will close out your shared accounts," he explained. "After today, she has no access to anything under your name." "Perfect," I said, signing the last sheet. He gathered the papers, squared them into a neat pile, and gave a small nod. "You handled this cleaner than most people do." "I didn't need revenge," I told him. "Just order." He nodded again, fully understanding what I meant. When I walked out of his office, the air felt sharp and clean. For the first time since I'd left that house, everything tying me to their day-to-day was finally gone, not just in my head, but on paper. That night, while I was fixing a loose cabinet door at Nick's place, a memory came out of nowhere. Our first year of marriage. Maya and I had just moved into a small apartment. No furniture yet, so we ate pizza on the floor surrounded by boxes. She laughed and said, "This will be our story someday." I remembered how simple that night felt. No money arguments, no freeloading relatives, no fake peace posts online. Just two people who actually thought they were on the same team. The memory didn't sting like I thought it would. It just felt like something that belonged to another version of me, someone I didn't really recognize anymore. Later that evening, my phone rang. I knew who it was before I even looked. I let it buzz twice before picking up. Her voice was low and cracked. "He's gone," she said. "They arrested him." I stayed quiet. She sniffed, her voice trembling. "The house is a mess. Everything's gone. I don't even know where to start." I leaned against the counter, kept my tone steady. "That's how it felt when you sided with him. Now you understand." She didn't respond, just quiet breathing through the line. Then softly, "I'm sorry." I didn't answer that either. I waited a few seconds, then hung up. I put the phone face down on the counter and looked around my small apartment. The walls were bare, but the air was calm. Everything worked. The lights, the sink, the silence. I opened my planner, checked tomorrow's jobs, wrote down addresses, and set my alarm. 6 weeks later, escrow closed. The wire hit, the keys changed hands, and the house was officially someone else's problem. 3 months passed. Life settled into something simple and quiet. My new apartment was small, 1 bedroom, clean walls, everything in its place. The desk faced the window. The coffee machine actually worked. There was no noise, except for the distant hum of traffic a few streets away. The business had grown steady. Calls came in almost every day. People trusted me. I had repeat clients now, landlords, property owners, small offices needing repairs. Nothing fancy, just consistent. The kind of work that kept your hands busy and your head clear. My body changed too. Up early. Lifting again. Eating right. No late-night arguments. No stress eating. No walking on eggshells. I slept through the night for the first time in years. My mind was calm. My days, predictable, peaceful. One Tuesday, I was finishing a fence repair at a rental property when I noticed someone standing near my truck. Hoodie up, hands in pockets. I knew the stance right away. Dylan. He waited until I walked over, eyes darting like he didn't want to be seen. "Hey man," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I just kept walking to the truck, tossed my gloves in the back and leaned against the door. "You've got about 30 seconds, I said. He shifted awkwardly. "I just need a place to crash, just for a bit. Things got bad, and I don't really have anyone else." I looked at him, same messy hair, same lazy tone, but the confidence was gone. "Try a job application," I said. He frowned. "Come on, man. You know how hard it is out here." "Yeah," I said flatly. "That's why I work." I unlocked the door and got in. He muttered something under his breath, something about me being heartless. I didn't care enough to respond. I just drove off without looking back. That night, I sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the city lights. I thought about how easy it was for people like him to ask for help, how quick they are to lean on anyone still standing. Then I stopped thinking about him altogether. A week later, Maya texted me. Just one line. "Can we meet?" No drama, I promise. I ignored it for a few hours, then finally replied, "Yes." We met at a small park near downtown, late afternoon, cool breeze. Hardly anyone around. She was sitting on a bench when I got there. No makeup, plain clothes, hair pulled back, no fake smile. She looked different this time. She looked real this time. When I sat down beside her, she gave a small nod. "Thanks for coming." I shrugged. "You asked." She stared down at her hands. "I'm working 2 shifts now, trying to pay off the debts. The house is gone. Everything's different." "Good," I said. "It should be." She nodded slowly. "I know I messed up. I should have listened before things got that bad. I just thought I was helping him." "You were helping him stay useless," I said. "There's a difference." She didn't argue. She just kept looking at the ground. "I'm sorry, Ryan." I nodded once. "Good. Keep going." For a while, neither of us said anything. Just the sound of birds, wind, a couple walking by. It was quiet, not awkward, just still. Then she looked up. "Do you think we could ever try again?" "Not now," I said, thinking it through. "But someday, maybe, when you've built something on your own, when you can stand on your own 2 feet, then maybe." She nodded. "That's fair." There wasn't much left to say after that. She stood up, thanked me quietly, and walked toward the parking lot. No tears, no begging, just quiet acceptance. I watched her leave and felt something shift inside me. Not sadness, not anger, just closure. The kind that comes when you finally turn the last page and don't feel the need to look back. The next morning, I woke up early like always. The sky was clear, sunlight spilling through the windows. I brewed my coffee and stepped out onto the balcony. The street below was already alive. People heading to work, buses rolling by, car horns in the distance. I leaned on the railing, warm mug in hand, my old watch ticking softly on my wrist. Everything felt steady, simple, mine. I didn't ruin them. I just stopped saving them. And that was enough. 6 months later, life had found its rhythm again. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashy, just steady progress. I was booked out for weeks, fixing fences, repairing doors, helping small landlords maintain their properties. Word of mouth did more than any ad could. I showed up on time, did honest work, and left things better than I found them. People liked that. The new apartment stayed spotless. No shouting, no slammed doors, no dishes rotting in the sink. I had a rule now. Everything in its place, everything earned. My tools were lined up neatly on a shelf by the wall. The smell of coffee and sawdust had become my version of peace. Every few weeks, Maya sent short messages. Not conversations, just updates. Started saving again. Finally cleared another bill. Working overtime this week. She wasn't asking for help anymore, just letting me know she was still trying. I never said much back, just a simple good or keep at it. It was enough. We'd already said all the important things. The rest was up to her. As for Dylan, I heard from a mutual friend that he'd left town. Bounced between a few odd jobs, ended up crashing with someone else who didn't know better yet. I didn't waste time thinking about it. Some people never learn until the world knocks them flat. Maybe it would. Maybe it wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. One Friday evening, I stopped by Nick's shop. He was under a car, oil on his hands, same old music playing in the background. When he saw me, he grinned. "Look at you, man. You actually look alive now." I laughed. Yeah, I got tired of bleeding for people who didn't care. He tossed me a soda and leaned on the counter. "You gonna date again or stay married? To your toolbox?" "Toolbox never lied to me," I said, and we both laughed. Truth was, I hadn't even thought about dating. I liked my space. I liked coming home to quiet. Maybe that would change someday. But I wasn't in a rush. You see life differently after you've watched how fast trust can rot when it's one-sided. I'd rather be alone than go through that mess again. Later that night, I got home, showered, and sat out on the balcony. The city lights stretched out below, a few dogs barking somewhere far away. The air was cool and calm. I checked my phone one last time. A new message from Maya. "Thanks for everything. Even the hard lessons." I didn't reply right away. I just set the phone aside, leaned back, and watched the skyline. Some people call it moving on. I call it remembering who you were before someone convinced you to forget. My coffee was still warm. My tools were lined up for tomorrow, and my world was finally quiet again. That's how I knew I'd won. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells. YouTube, this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.